Hello and welcome back to Tyranny, where last time we ventured into the walls, killed Mr. R, recovered the Mage Bane helm, and sided with the Forge Masters, as the Bronze Brotherhood refused to listen to reason. And we were about to speak with Matani Sybil. However, we received a letter. Dear Fatebinder Ethan Drake, may this missive find you in able health. I write to you in hopes of striking a bargain with the court. By the laws of Kairos, I am a purveyor of lies. In my work for the Ink and Quill, I have written many texts, and while some of the particulars are at odds with history as taught by those loyal to Kairos, I truly believe that our work is not blasphemous nor treasonous, and does nothing but exemplify the inevitability of Kairos. It is not my place to say what is and isn't worthy of censure. That duty, if I understand correctly, is yours. My offer is this. If you would preserve my texts, I would submit my neck to any sentence you deem worthy without protest. My life is worth little compared to the texts that require the life's work of 1,000 sages. I understand such writings are likely need to be kept in a vault far from offending eyes, but if I can be assured that our written echoes will live on, my flesh and blood are the courts to discard. If you are amenable to my offer, seek me out. My current whereabouts are far from the ruins of the Valium Citadel. See the reverse of this parchment for instructions. If you make your way to the way directed, I will seek you out. Glory to Kairos, Sage L. On the reverse side of this missive is a charcoal sketch of what appears to be a small keep built along a mountainside foothills. A map of the tiers is drawn in the corner within a circle that appears to indicate that this location is in the Bastard tier, north and east of the Bastard city. Politely agree. Dear Sage L, your request is a bit unorthodox. If you are aware of your role in creating forbidden lore, you surely must know that asking me to harbor such things is asking me to take your crime upon myself. But I am not without reason or mercy, and I would at least hear out all that you have to say in person. Fatebinder Ethan Drake, send it. And then we have some words with Matani Sybil. Who is somewhere. Somewhere in this town. Hello, Fatebinder. What brings you to Lethian's Crossing? I figured you'd be too busy to visit us here. What can I do for you? It's good to see you. It's good to see you as well. Yada yada yada. Must go. Cool. So what's my actual plan then? Travel to the Shattered Bastion. Return to Ari. And Aurora. Alright. So I should go and talk to the Forge Masters. Is what I need to do. And then I need to activate the Spire at Lethian's Crossing. Shouldn't be too hard. Hello. A muscular woman stands upright from her forge and turns to look at you, the light of the fire playing across her face, making her eyes dance dangerously. A toothy smile breaks across her mouth, the only bright spot on her suit-stained face. Do you kill with your left hand or you're right. She rubs blackened palms together, eyeing you expectantly. Normally, I can tell at a glance, but you are a little harder to read. Left. Noted. She grips her belt and cinches it, rattling the picks, awls, and pliers that dangle from its various hooks. I am Aurora, master of tempering, and forge master of all Lethian's Crossing. My tasks exceed the hours left in the day, but there is no harm pausing in my work if it means speaking with the Honorable Fatebinder. How may I be of assistance? Why did you want to know if I kill with my left hand or my right? The gauntlet is the hardest piece of the panoply, and the most rewarding to work. So many different scales of so many different sizes, and then there are the rivets. She slides her thumb and fingers together, shedding flecks of soot and iron dust. I imagine you see a lot of battle in your line of work. One gauntlet is invariably going to wear out before the other. My mind is always thinking on the one that need repairs first. It is as simple as that. Well, I found Apprentice Garrick. I have already spoken to him. The young weasel thought he could find rare metals in the old walls, did he? Well, I'm more impressed that he returned with his life than anything he might have found. Thank you for your hard work, Fatebinder. You deserve a reward, at least. And Aldian mentioned something about you needing help? Well, yes, actually. That goat fucker Ratamon really made a mess of this settlement. Not only did he capture the head of our order, but he also killed several of my forge hands. She smashes her fist into a nearby table, launching several metalworking tools into the air. As much as I'd love to personally track down the bastard, I'm duty-bound to stay and fulfill our commitments to the armies. I was going to send some of my own to tackle a few problems, but now we've barely enough hands to keep these fires stoked. If you've got the time, I could really use your help with the missing shipment. Tell me about the shipment. Our last iron delivery was light. The Bronze Brotherhood has been attacking forge-bound caravans for years, and even though the ore is useless to them, they attack our porters just to spite us. Her face takes on a sour expression. I probably shouldn't mention this, but you're going to be helping me. You deserve to know everything. There were some very important weapons being sent back to us hidden in that shipment. We need to repair them and get them back into the hands of the soldiers. My hunch is that killing our porters and taking their rations was enough. They'd have no cause to lug a bunch of rocks back to their camp, and I don't think they knew the weapons were there, at least. Well, I hope they didn't. She scratches her jaw, thinking. Our man meant to travel through the dense forest of Deserter's March. We don't know about his precise route, as our porters often improvise on the road to avoid encounters with bandits. I know there isn't much to go on, I'm sorry. I know a spot. Are you well? You look wary. Ecstatic. Her voice is matter-of-fact, and a smile creeps in. The ritual of the forge links heart to hammer. My blood beats only when I strike at my ingot. My forge runs too hot if my breath becomes too hurried. The bond is both fatiguing and exhilarating. Couldn't that kill you? I should hope so. She laughs, her face blushing the color of molten metal. Better being defiled and killed. What? Oh, better than being defiled and killed by brigands, poisoned by grain rot, or slain by childbirth. Would not a soldier wish to die in battle? I will be leaving now. Alright, let's go to the Spire then. Time to activate another Spire. Bum, 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 bum. Activate another Spire. I should really do practicing on the different types of voices I can do for this game, but really it's so damn hard to keep them all separate because they really aren't. But with that being done, there should be the path. Somewhere this way.
Interesting. Sorry, I can't.
Pick up some random loot on the way.
Sorry, I can't.
Its beast woman's ears and bones ache, makes paws burn. Do not like thrum of mystic pulse and stone steps of Spire place.
You're right, the area does thrum with the blood magic. The earth blood magic. This is an excellent time to remind all of you that I am taking votes for what character classes to play in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Both Jedi and regular, as once this series is over, that is what is next. And if I remember my math correctly, if I remember my math correctly, there's about 18, maybe 2024 tops episodes of Tyranny. Should be at least 18, but it's going to top out at 25. It just depends on how long it's going to take me. But I'm thinking more along the lines of 18, 20 episodes, and this is like the 10th. So it's coming up quick. So be sure to vote in the comments. Just leave a comment about what character class you want me to play. For those of you who haven't played that game, the class, well, I'll get into that once I'm done reading this. That'll be a good side distraction filler for the slow splits. This chamber immediately reminds you of Ascension Hall. An intricate rune running along the floor can only mean one thing. You stand at the feet of a great spire. Each step you take echoes across a great distance. As you gaze upward, the sage-colored walls quickly give way to an unending blackness. The rune in the center of the floor is inactive, and the silence of the hall offers no clues as to its use or function. You feel a slight tug in your chest, a faint echo of the energy that enveloped you at Vendrian's Well.
Study carefully the glyphs. They're gibberish
Is magic? I know.
to me, but I know magic when I see it.
So, as I was saying, for those of you who have not played those games, the regular classes are Scout. Well, actually, no. I'll start at the beginning of the spectrum. Soldier, which is basically just a straight-up combat fighter. If I remember correctly, I don't have the manual with me. I have the manual for the second game with me. I know I have that manual for the first one around here somewhere. Whatever. Basically, it is a soldier, which, if I remember correctly, is a lot of feats and combat ability. Then there is... I'm looking for the parchment. So it's a circle with 2 triangles. Got it. Yeah, there's the soldier, which is straight up combat. There's the... And actually, I want you guys to go this way.
Not a problem.
Yeah, soldiers are straight up combat. There's the sentinel. Or no, that's Jedi. There's the scout, which is a lot of skills. And then there is the scoundrel, which is a lot of charisma and stealth. And then as far as the scouts, if I remember correctly, start off with 1 cybernetic implant, like skill. The soldier seems like the best, but because eventually we're going to become a Jedi, and most Jedi stuff don't work with armor, it's definitely good for the early game, but I don't know how it's going to be towards the end.
But as I said, it's basically the soldier, which is basically a straight-up combat character. The scout... Well, actually, no, I should be able to have a thingy that tells what everything does. I'll have to go and find it. Wait, that didn't work? What? Huh. That's weird.
I got it.
I probably forgot this piece. Yep, I forgot that piece. Yeah, I'll have to pull up my pamphlet. But basically, the soldier is a straight-up combat character. The scout is a good mix between the scoundrel and the soldier. And the scoundrel is very much a skills-based character with a lot of charisma and stealth. Then, of course, you have the Jedi classes, which I know a lot better the difference between. Because it's a lot more obvious. The arcane light courses skyward, trailing off towards the horizon in the direction of Endrian's well. You feel the ground rippled out beneath you yet again as you drift back towards the warmth of the energy surrounding you. Your awareness stretches beyond the limits of this spire, pulling in many directions at once. The light you saw arcing through the sky reminds you of the tether you feel to the top of Endrian's well. This too is a point of connection, and you are an inextricable, that's a word, part of it, bound as surely as the spires are to each other. The sunset spire in Lethian's Crossing feels burdened by its age, as if a central linchpin somewhere in its core has weathered the centuries of an oppressive weight and longs to topple. The surge of energy that courses through you, forming a link with Endrian's well, strengthens the very stones beneath your feet. The structural weakness you detected vanishes, replaced by confidence that could keep this tower standing for millennia. See there, due south is Ardent, where I was born. And then over there to the right of that is where the Academy of Tides used to stand. Ooh, and you can see that little island off. Barris in Chains, that's where Harvangar would take me to practice our more dangerous spells. My childhood is seen from above. This is surreal.
Have not seen Haven lands from so high before, from bird's eye view, looking at home and trees and shadows from here. Can't spot where Shadowhunter tribe kept den, where Beastwoman hunted, fought, and bred.
She tilts her snout in an eastern direction, crimson eyes soft with emotion. Who knew that all this was up here while I sat below, wasting my time trying to gather a group of followers from the refugees in Lethian's Crossing? The untapped power in this spire is astounding. I must find out how to get some. The spire feels like a relay between you and Vendrian's well, bridging some transference of energy on an enormous scale. You are the first link of a chain that stretches the length of the realm. As you struggle to understand this sensation, you grow aware of whispers all around you. Listen closer. Kills and Shadow hurt my voice. The whispers themselves seem to travel down the tether between you and the spires, conducting heat that feels at times unbearable. They speak of your actions, your choices, everything that's led you to this place. Your name is known, your banner is recognized, your deeds reported across the tiers and the Northern Empire alike. For an instant, you see the accumulated hope and fear these whispers represent. It appears like dewdrops settling on a leaf, then trickling on to a shared basin. This image is fed to you through your connection. A base metaphor that only hints at the true scope. There is power in these spires, though the source is unfamiliar. Were you to harness it, you suspect that nothing would stand beyond your reach. Unlocking the spire seems to have opened some deeper connection.
On the moment my staff and I are separated, parts of its magic goes dormant until I'm once again near. That same dynamic is happening with you and the Spires. They've adopted you, I guess. They are certainly like you enough not to kick you out of bed.
Air now thrums with power, beats like heart and hooves of running stag. Fast, hard, fast. Has given Alpha mystic claws and mystic fangs.
I feel it too. The air is thick up here, isn't it? Exactly the opposite of what you'd expect. The magic up here is almost a physical presence.
Forge.
And again, that hurt a lot.
My dear Ethan Drake, the court is all abuzz with the news of the Civil War. Representatives from the courts and the disfavored are having little shouting matches in front of Tunon. The petitioners to the court seem swept up in talks of who will crush whom, and if and when Tunon will bring down the gavel to stop the fighting. What has me intrigued, however, is the other story out of Endrian's Well. Tunon sends you on what I thought was going to be a one-way trip to the well, and not only do you live, you somehow claimed the mountain Spire, and you broke Kairos' edict too. Such things make a little civil war seem so trivial in comparison, at least to those who can separate the message from the noise. Tell me, what was it like to break the edict, and how is it you took control of the Spire? Fatebinder Rogalos.
Explain it best as I can.
Dear Rogulus, Kairos' edict simply said that an agent of the Overlord must claim Ascension Hall before Kairos' Day of Swords. The only thing I consciously did was take charge of the battle to claim Ascension Hall. My claiming of the Spire happened just moments after I felt the edict's grip release. The floor of Ascension Hall gave way, unearthing a glowing pattern beneath the chamber floor. Kairos only knows how long it's been buried under the tile. And as for how I actually claimed the Spire, it is, perhaps, a mutual bond. Atop the Spire is an old structure, a twin-tined edifice. I'll include a sketch on the back of the parchment. The structure spoke to me in sensations and images, and appears to respond to my presence at some limited capacity. That is what happened, as best as I can think to describe it. Does any of this sound familiar, or bring to mind any old stories or rumors? Ebb wishes to speak.
A second Spire has awoken to your presence. This is fascinating, and I admit enviable. If it turns out your connection to the Spires invites death and woe, my jealousy might wane a bit. I've been mulling over that structure we found atop Vendrian's Well. Would you be opposed to me studying the sculpture in closer detail? I'd perhaps work a spell or two near the structure. Simple cantrips of gravelight by which to read and inspect, but I will not poke or shove the thing in any way physical or mystical.
You don't need to ask my permission.
Thank you. Next time we have a good moonlit night, I'd best settle in and see what sort of magic perturbations I can sense from the sculpture.
That's another good word, perturbations.
What is it you need?
Nope. I guess I'll talk with Seren to get her to open
Good
up.
day, Fatebinder.
Seren nods to you.
What do you need?
I would like to know more about you. Homeland. Oh, that was bad. What is there to say? It's a fuzzy memory hardly worth recalling. I was born in a northern farming village without a name. That's how out of the way we were. A bunch of families ended up settling near each other, and that was my village. It was about 20 miles from Shadow's Rest, and you probably haven't heard of that either. We were farmers, poor and isolated. Nothing about my home or past is really worth dwelling on, Fatebinder. I barely remember my father. My mother is dead, and the only thing that people ever wanted to hear from me was my song. The girl is powerful. Bring the songbird. We need a blessing. Our crops are withering. What has that bitch done? Nothing in your past is worth dwelling on? It looks to me like you remember something. I suppose when an angry mob fears what you can do and stones your mother to death while she sealed you with your body, it sticks with you. Oh God, that's horrific.
What do you remember about your family?
The good thing about being taken from home when you're still a child is you can't miss the childhood you never got.
What do you want to know? How were you taken?
Well, technically, by the time I was taken, there was no family left to be taken from, but Kairos' forces had gotten word of my talents and decided I was better used taking over the world than helping local farmers.
What happened? What do you think? They're dead. My father may not have cared about me, about us, but my mother would have never let anyone take me while she lived. Without anyone to protect me, I was whisked off to Kairos' court. How would you describe your father? Worthless? Hopeless? Devoid of human emotion? Sometimes I feel like we're complete opposites. He seemed incapable of feeling anything, and I seemed to be nothing but raw emotion. Narat let it slip that my father sold me to Kairos and was responsible for my mother's death. Someone had to egg the crowd on, and someone had to tell Kairos' men where I was. Not that it matters. He's dead, and I'm better off without him. What do you remember about your mother? Oh, no, I hit the wrong button. How did your whoever die? And I was like, yeah.
No, Fatebinder, I can't. Please don't make me talk about it.
All right. I will not ask you to tell me that story. And that must have been her mother's death. What can you tell me about your mother?
She's dead, so I don't have much to remember. She loved me, that much I know, but sometimes I wonder if what she felt was love or fear. Fear for me or of me, and sometimes I don't think there was a difference between the two. My mother loved me when no one else did and when no one else could. The world wanted nothing but my voice, and all my mother wanted was my happiness. She was the only person in my life that did.
Tell me about your father's death.
He disappeared after my mother died and I was kidnapped, and I didn't hear anything about him for the longest time, so I assumed he disappeared and I would never see him again. Then someone brought word that he'd been found. He killed himself, and now he's out of my life. I think that that's not true, but I don't have the subterfuge skill. Do you have any siblings? No, I was close to a boy in my village for some time, but my mother stopped letting me play with him when everyone realized what my powers were. That's the closest thing I ever had to a living sibling.
A living sibling?
My brother died very young. I never knew him, so I hardly count him as a sibling. Life in the middle of nowhere is difficult. For a single child to survive, let alone more, is a testament to the parents.
She looks at you for some time, her lips a thin line. Her eyes grow red and tears form in her lids. Finally, she nods slowly and breaks her silence.
I remember my mother talking about me getting a little brother. It wasn't long after I started singing and my powers started growing. She told me it would be too hard for her to travel with me. Seren, sweetie, you'll have to go with your daddy. It wouldn't be good for the baby if I kept traveling like that. Maybe after your brother is here with us, we can all travel together.
She looks out to the horizon, her voice breaking. Go on.
Everyone wanted the songbird to sing for them, and they paid us so much money. So when we went... But I didn't want to go without my mother. She was the only real comfort I had. When I was with her, I felt safe, like nothing could hurt me. There was a trip coming up, and I knew she wouldn't be going. I couldn't bear the thought of all those days in the care of my father.
Her voice breaks again, and she closes her eyes.
So I sang to my baby brother. I told him we were all waiting for him. I told him we needed to be family so we could travel together. I told him he should come out now. I don't know if I meant for it to happen, but I sang the words. No one can resist my voice. My mother's screams cut the song short, and the blood. It was everywhere. I was dragged from the room, but I don't remember who took me. I only remember staring at my foot for the rest of the afternoon. The pattern soaked into my shoe, the splatter across the top of my toes. I couldn't bring myself to clean it off, just looked at it. How long had your mother been pregnant? Not long enough for my brother to survive. Maybe he could have, I don't know. The problem is, when I told him he had to come out, I didn't mean I wanted him out alive. I don't think he would have survived even if it was time for my mother to give birth. People came and went that day. There was a lot of crying, and nobody looked at me the same way after that. My mother told me things like this happen all the time, but even at 5 I knew what I had done, and a part of me was happy. I wanted my mother back, and I got her. She still loved me. She died protecting me, but I terrified her. Every time I opened my mouth, I could see her flinch. And after my brother died, she was never around when I sang. She couldn't bear to watch me.
God damn, that's sad. I have never traveled with Seren, and holy crap, of every single person in this party, she needs my help the most. Because it's such a it's oh man. That's so horrible. That's so fucking horrible. How long have you been practicing magic?
Always. I have no memory of being without the power. It's always been my driving force, and I am who I am because of it. Every defining moment of my life is because of my voice and the power behind it. I have become what it made me, and it is what I have done with it. Tell me about your time with Narat. What do you want to know? How'd you meet Narat? I met it when I was unceremoniously dumped on its doorstep by Kairos, and all I felt toward it since the moment I saw it was sheer hatred. When one person tires of me, they just hand me off to another. I seem to be quite the handful. No one is truly prepared to deal with me, I suppose. I was in possession of it for 3 years. Stuck doing what it wanted until you came along and started messing around with Kairos' plans. I will talk later because the lack
What do you need?
the lack of other things. Like, I hate how the music cuts out when I'm doing that. So I'll talk to Seren later.
Such a simple task.
See that?
Are you okay, Barrett?
Barrick stares at you through his narrow eye slits, saying nothing at all. The only evidence that he still lives in the steam of heavy exhalations that escape the cracks in his helm. Are you okay in there, Barrick? He continues to stare, unmoving. Though you can't see his face, you get the impression that his mood has darkened even further. The stench that his armor exudes has intensified. Barrick, did you die under there? A loud sigh escapes the helmet, and Barrick shakes his head in tired bewilderment.
You betrayed Graven Ash, the Legion, and our northern countrymen. As far as I'm concerned, you are a traitor to this campaign.
I've made the Tin Man angry. Barrick leans in close, looking ready to throttle you. The people of the Tiers deserve to govern themselves.
If you truly believe that, then you have missed the entire point of this conquest from the beginning. 3 years of wasted effort. Let us be clear on one point. You have my blade, but my heart belongs to Ash and the North. I am a weapon bound to you only by duty, nothing more.
Our gang is building quite the little collection of spires, aren't we? Yeah, the voices in Narat was never one for keeping strongholds, but I can definitely see the appeal. What do you think of the spires? Well, they're big, but make no mistake, a determined army can knock one down if they got enough shovels and picks together. Don't be so quick to assume you're invincible. As for what they are, well, I try not to ask those sort of questions.
What do you need? At your service, Fatebinder. What do you need? You've just got to know, don't you? I suppose there's no point in hiding it. Barrick and I are siblings. We share a father, if little else. I try not to think too much about some northern merchant dropping anchor in my mother's port, but it happened, and the fortunate result stands proudly before you.
How did you become aware of this?
There were a lot of lazy days during the conquest, and among other things, I spent my off hours using messenger birds as target practice. You should have seen Ash's anger when he heard that was going on. One day, I snagged a bird that flew from the hands of a proud northern daddy. The missive was about the goings-on at the family farm. I recognized the name and handwriting from a note in my mother's belongings. There weren't too many people named Barrick in the army, so tracking him down was no challenge. I cornered him in camp, and we shared a few heated words. Some blackmail, even.
How has this affected you, Barrick?
Well, Verse has a nasty habit of jabbering in my ear and making this war intolerable. I plan on parting ways and returning to the north at first convenience. My father will answer for his infidelity. Beyond that, I am happy to consider myself in every way unaffected. My superiors once accused me of having an impulsive streak, but I have worked to suppress it at every turn.
When you go back home, send Father my fondest greetings and thanks. If he hadn't gone to ground on my mother's dry dock, I might not be here today.
My heritage was a point of pride and distinction before I met you, Verse. Not that you would care.
Do you even like each other?
I've tried to get along with that ironclad knot of repression, but it would seem he's having none of it. Good riddance, then. The war's tossed us together, but nothing says we have to keep that going. The most we do for each other is try not to get the other one killed, which is more than you can say for most disfavored in Scarlet Chorus. I've asked myself about that several times, but unfortunately I don't have what you'd call a definitive answer. The Northerners put a lot of meaning behind family and blood. Seems arbitrary to me, but I don't want to discredit it entirely. There have been times when I acted strangely on the battlefield and could find no reason why, or gotten distracted and had thoughts I couldn't explain. I suppose there's no telling for sure, but if I had to guess... yeah. Sometimes I get messed up in my head, and learning I had a brother has helped me understand that better.
Well, with that being said, what's our next objective? Deserter's March, Shattered Bastion, and returning to Ari.
The Spire allows for such a long and uninterrupted view.
Barrick glances over the edge with hesitation, then shivers.
I find restraint and limitations more to my liking, though it is nice to feel a breeze running through these plates of solid rust.
Fatebinder, I'm a little busy right now. Couldn't you find someone else to babysit your curiosity?
Grunting, Barrick is focused on bending down, a sharp point protruding from his armor. With a sigh, he relents and
What can I
glares
do
at
for
you.
you? If you would have me travel at your side...
We'll wait for a short while.
No, because that's the bastard tier.
That's the bastard's wound, damn it!
Encounter in Vindrian's Well. You make out a light rustling, wary of an ambush. You flank the source of the sound, only to come upon a grave worm. These powdered creatures do much to enrich the soil of the tiers, but their meat can also make a bland, chewy meal if need dictates. I don't really need it. It can fuck off. I need to ask about removing Barrick's armor, and I need to go and do some things. Oh, missive. You unfurl the missive to see your reply from earlier. Whether the original sender is lost or dead is unknown, but what is clear is that the carrier bird that first delivered word to the Sage L was unable to find its original sender, so he has circled back to you with your undelivered missive.
Dear Fatebinder Ethan Drake, your summation is most fascinating. Thank you for sharing. You are certainly not the first person to proclaim an edict. Many of us have been used to complete the casting of the Overlord's magic, and you are not the first to break an edict. Although that list of names is a smaller, more exclusive list. What is curious, though, living and recorded memory make no mention of someone who has proclaimed and shattered the same edict. In that regard, you are an anomaly. The bad news is the Archons know this and will be suspicious of this distinction. Along with this parchment, I have included the contact information of the Honorable Fatebinder Mythosis, an old peer of mine and perhaps the most knowledgeable in the court on the matters not taught to us by Tunon. Treat her with respect, and she will not betray your confidence. Best of luck, Ethan Drake. I think things are about to get even stranger for you, Fatebinder Rokulos.
My lord Tunon, I must plead for my innocence in this matter.
That will be for the courts to decide. The Forge-bound are my subjects, and I hold them to a higher standard. You are the keepers of the Iron Secret. That cannot be forgotten. Fatebinder, so kind of you to join us. I wonder if you might assist us in adjudicating this case. As always, I am curious to witness your execution of Kairos' law.
It would be a pleasure.
Excellent. Smith, offer your testimony.
The Forge-bound Otterson clears his throat. Well, I bought this shiny bauble from a merchant passing through Lethian's Crossing. A stone of great beauty and strength. Over time, I shaped it into a mallet for pounding iron. The properties of the stone were incredible. I could swing harder, faster, and without strain. It increased my production of iron weapons tenfold.
Until your master grew suspicious and turned you over to me. The bauble you speak of was a touchstone, an artifact known to originate from the old walls to which all are forbidden to go.
The charge is trespass and theft of forbidden artifacts. You may proceed, Fatebinder. Did you know where the touchstone came from? Not at first. The merchant wouldn't reveal his sources, but it didn't take long to put the pieces together. You just don't encounter objects of such power from anywhere else. When you realized the object's source, did you stop using it? No. Once I figured out every swing of the mallet shamed me something awful. But I knew I was doing right by Kairos. I was sending the army the best weapons I'd ever crafted. I thought that might absolve me. Guess I thought wrong. Did you ever lie about using the mallet? No! That is, the other smiths were curious about my work, but no one thought to inspect my tools, since no one asked and never told them.
A lie of omission, then. Just as nefarious in the eyes of Kairos.
What if your arcane tool had harmed someone, or yourself? What then would have become of iron production? I'm ready to give my ruling. Forbidden knowledge is taboo under Kairos' law, but the smith was ignorant. He should go free. So I can go? He looks to you from Tunon and back again with panic and uncertainty. A shrewd interpretation of Kairos' law, but I cannot deny its validity. Very well, the Forge-bound may return to his duties using only the tools of his trade. Is that understood? Yes, Your Honor. I will return to my labors right away. Yeah, it's like, yeah, you can go back, but that mallet is Tunon's now, bitch. Quill in hand, I will give a polite introduction to Fatebinder Mythos. I write to you at the urging of my peer and tutor, Fatebinder Regulus. He has found himself bereft of answers, a rare condition for him, and has suggested you may be the only source of answers that I seek. If you will pardon the imposition, it would mean a great deal to learn whether... Fuck, man.
I am totally off my game today. It would mean a great deal to learn what you know of Kairos' edicts and the magic of the spires. The mountain spire of the Tears has awoken to my presence, an event that occurred moments after I resolved an edict of Kairos. So it's critical that I learn just what happened to me and what it all means. I thank you in advance for your consideration and wisdom, Fatebinder Ethan Drake sent it. Now, for while I'm here.
You return. It is gratifying to see that the war has not caused you to forget your roots. What is it you wish to know?
I have a request from Barrack of the Stone Shields.
And what does Barrack of the Stone Shields want of the court? He has made his displeasure known loud enough to collapse the Tears upon each other.
He came to inquire if the Forgebound could help remove his armor.
If he has become encased in iron, that is none of the court's concern. My Forgebound smiths are occupied crafting weapons for the army, and I would not have their focus diverted to liberate one soldier from his raiment. Stone Shield, do the disfavored not have standards for upkeep of arms and armor? Is this not one of your Archon's guiding principles? It is, Your Honor, but I have found myself trapped in this pile of junk after the Edict of Storms hit Stalwart. If you want to blame anyone, it should be Kairos.
The adjudicator contemplates the matter in total silence. The moment drags on far longer than you would suspect it warrants, but Tunan's interest does not abate for a moment.
The soldier will remain encased in armor, eccentric though it may be, and all subjects of Kairos are forbidden to aid in its removal. Magic, the likes of which none of us understand, has touched the Stone Shield, and we will not interfere with the will of Kairos.
But I am trapped. Barrack trails off, looking to you for answers. Your Honor, could you not reconsider?
I am surprised and disappointed that you would even ask. Whatever you are trying to prove to your travel companion, the court finds it festering with sympathy and a lack of precedent. Such is the will of Kairos and the will of the court.
Tunan nods and bangs his gavel.
Well, you tried. I suppose that counts for something, at least. The adjudicator didn't say anything about me bending my way out of here, at least. Not that trying has ever made it better.
No more questions. Oh, then Callio wants to talk to me. Hello, Callio. I'm here now, bitch.
Greetings. Your exploits at Vendrian's Well are the topic of much discussion. One begins to question the intent behind your methods. I hope you are not wandering from a path which you cannot return. In spite of my reservations, what can I do for you? Farewell. Goodbye. Have a nice day. Fuck off.
I will not tell you about what I'm planning, because that would be foolhardy. Rebel path. Rebel path. Only be into Nunsulfa for as long as it is safe, and I will go to Deserter's March to find the ancient loots that have been lost. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. Find all of the ancient stuff, and I got a new missive friend. The missive says, do you remember your training under Bloodmark? If I remember mine, funny to think that you and I are about a century apart. But to Bloodmark, we are all children. I'm now the oldest of the court's children, and I've seen much in my time. It's probably for the best if everyone assumes I'm old, harmless, and worth shuffling away in the archives. If I were scrutinized too closely, I'm sure Tunon would find I've grown lax in my spoiled old age. Part of why I am here is that I've kept my head down. You appear to be doing the opposite. In some regards, this is beyond your control. You were chosen for the honor of proclaiming the edicts twice. To decline would have meant death, but to accept means to be placed on the stage for all to see. Kairos' most powerful weapon is not the edict. It's her ability to hand us rope that we willingly use to hang ourselves. Never forget this. There are numerous questions nestled in your request. What is it you wish to know most? Focus your inquiry, and I will answer as best as I can. Edicts and their nature. Your Timon is dead. You no longer have to hide.
Are you serious? That's the best news I've heard in a long time.
Oh look, bodies shuffled in the corner. How convenient.
Have a look here. Found something.
Oh, that can't be good.
Hey, there's a disfavored.
Sorry, I can't.
And there's Nicandros. You there. Thought I was dead, did you? Thought you just help yourself to those crates. Was on my way to get those to the forge bound. Seems that won't be happening now. What happened to you? Was crossing through Deserter's March. I stopped for just a moment and it happened. Blade right in my back. I didn't see who or what had done it. Looks like I won't finish. Look, just take the shipment. I'll make sure it gets there. Good. You must. Damn. Back to Leora and let the ends crossing, and then I will go, to talk to my lady, go, Spire, go, Spire, Spire. But anyway, as I was saying, as far as the Star Wars stuff goes, basic classes again are Soldier, Scout, and Scoundrel. The Soldier is straight up fighting, the Scout is a mix, and the Scoundrel is pure stealth. There are also the Jedi classes, which are the Jedi Knight, which is focused on feats and saber combat. There is the Sentinel, which is a mix of that and force and skills. And then there is, which with a priority on skills. And then there is the Counselor, which is weak in saber combat and is really good at force powers. But because I am going to be playing a light side playthrough, my primary form of damage is going to be my lightsaber, and my primary form of healing and various stun effects is going to be the force powers. But I believe Barrick wants to talk to us. Only the slightest nod of Barrick's domed helm offers any indication the Soldier has noticed your approach. Are you okay?
The Archon's decision changes nothing. I have preserved to this point, and I shall continue to do so for the sake of Ash and the North.
You sound very convinced. There must be another way.
Your master was very specific in his sentence. He forbade not only assistance from the Forgebound, from anyone, anywhere else in the world.
No. The Archon forbade any subjects of Kairos to aid you.
You split hairs, Binder. The whole world bends to the knee of the Overlord. If that were the case, we would not be in the tiers, would we?
You are not suggesting we ask some renegade mage for aid. You would discard the spirit of the law in favor of its letter? Trust me, Barrick. It's the letter that matters. Fine, maybe I'll find some other way to free you.
The Forgebound will be curious regardless.
I'm really hoping he doesn't have the bad ending.
Let's go. All right. For starters, well, I guess for starters, I'll have you examine Barrack. Did the adjudicator not issue an injunction against precisely that action? Indeed, he sent the decision by bird to each of the guild workshops. Much can be forgiven, if in service to the Overlord's eternal glory. You refer to the Magician's Folly, the law that protects mages from persecution against harm inflicted in active conflict, no? Not flagrant disregard of an Archon's decree. Perhaps you should twist it to protect us. But that would be no small feat when arguing before the adjudicator himself. This seems extremely unwise, but authority and responsibility fall upon the heads of Zendadia and yourself. I hope you do not underestimate the adjudicator's forbearance.
You know as well as I that Tunon forbade this. I cannot be complicit.
I promise you that this will be for the best, friend. Let me deal with the legal ramifications.
I have little confidence that Tunon will see it the same way, or that you will be able to shield me from his wrath.
I am an armored badass, and I will kill him if he tries to lay a finger on you. Let us begin the examination, Barrack. Assuming you remain fond of your fleshy parts, I suggest you refrain from unnecessary movement. I will begin with some basic questions. They require your open and honest cooperation. What manner of questions? Understand there may be things we can't tell you. I recognize the importance of proprietary information. I will refrain from asking unnecessarily prying questions regarding either the Court of the Fatebinders or the Legion. It's hardly reassuring. To begin, I require a full sexual history. Well, I don't know. How can that be relevant? Barrack sputters. I expect little of a Stone Shield's education, but I assume that you at the very least understand the possible impact of a resonant alteration. It's important, Barrack, particularly in the case of possible convergence of arcane energies, to rule out resonant adulteration. I suppose that sounds reasonable. The armor prevented anything from happening recently, regardless of whether or not I wanted to. Before it, well, Legion is... I spent a couple people I cared about deeply. We are the pride of the North, strong and beautiful, he creaks quietly. And that is the last I shall speak of it. I have never passed time with a mage, or an Archon, or an Oathbound, Beastwoman, or anything else unusual. Nothing unusual. I've always heard there's a special bond between disfavored officer and their subordinates. Is there anything you were really unwilling to soil with your perversion, witch? Our guild provided the armor you wore during the conquest, correct? And prior to it? Were you issued non-standard gear, anything sigil engraved or crafted by a master? I do not believe so. It was iron. Obviously iron. Soldiers. Laura shakes her head, muttering. And do you bear any sigil brands other than that of the Archon of War? I bear the mark of the disfavored and nothing else. I doubt that Legion marks acts as a resonant channel, given that it's not actually a sigil. Yet, the powers of the Archon hardly adhere to the strictures of spellcraft. I have the vague understanding of the General's ability. I know that he protects those in his charge. Is there any further information you can provide on the Aegis' specific arcane properties? Feel free to use examples if you must. You ask me not to reveal the General's secrets? To a mage? That is too much. Archon Ash shares a strong connection with his soldiers. It allows him to take on some of their harm while also sharing in their experiences. Fatebinder! His gasp contains anger and disbelief in equal measure. The Forgebound clearly haven't touched this. I take it you perform little to no maintenance on it either? Aside from oiling it and filing down the pointier bits? No. Wait, how did you know that? Metal grinds quietly. Shockingly, I have a passing familiarity with the craftsmanship of my guild, or in your case, the lack thereof.
She strides to the forge and draws forth a long metal rod and a glow. She mutters something under her breath in the cadence of her whisper, suggesting an incantation. She proffers the tool to you? He'd point lower to the floor. What am I supposed to do with this? Thrust it into his side, through the armor and a solid 4 to 6 inches into the flesh. I recommend a single sharp jab if you got the strength for it. Are you insane? Is the hammer insane? What about the hammer? The flame? Is it madness to understand one's nature and act in accord? I suppose that's true, though usually with a bit more warning. He twists his torso in an attempt to look at the wound. Intriguing. Disgusting, but intriguing. Care to examine the wound? You bend close, but Barrick's hand is clamped over the hole in his side, obscuring your view. I need to see your injury, Barrick. With a slow reluctance, Barrick removes his gauntleted hand from the hole in his side. You peer through the hole in the oxidized bronze and iron shell, willing yourself to ignore the mixed smells of cooked meat and fetid human waste. You see the ragged, oozing flesh beneath, a gasping red cavity pulsing in time with Barrick's labored breath. Even as you watch, the wound seems to close, bronze-colored skin knitting together the edges like a slowly closing mouth. It's not merely the skin, however. Barrick's armor cage slowly shifts and flows, incrementally reducing the aperture. Fascinating. Did you see that? His armor seems to be healing, just like his flesh. The forgebound nods, furrowed in thought. Barrick, your armor heals as if it were your skin. I infer from the backlog of the stone shield repairs we have left to wade through that such properties do not come standard with the Archon of War's patronage. Not to my knowledge. If he and his armor heal as one, they're likely mystically bound together. Just so. And I suspect we've been witnessing a commingling of arcane influences, that of the Archon and the Overlord's edict. One wonders, however, why would it affect only you and not the other disfavored in the edict's path? Perhaps your relationship with the Awakener of the Mountain Spire has something to do with it. But I barely knew the Fatebinder prior to Fendrian's Well. Nor had the Mountain Spire been awakened at the time. My conjecture hinges more on potential than action. Still, I've reached the limits of what I can ascertain without either becoming significantly more invasive or studying a sample of ore from the Blade Grave. We'll get you a sample. And with that, almost, there's the weapon shipment. With that, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.